Hello and welcome to Verbal to Visual Video. I'm your host, Doug Neill, and in this video, I'm going to talk about how to take some of your favorite ideas, your favorite quotes, and give those quotes a visual form so that you can better remember them and carry them with you wherever you are. The reason that I chose to focus this week on how to sketchnote your favorite quotes is because I recently finished the second book here, Turning Pro by Stephen Pressfield, having read the first, The War of Art, about a year ago. And there are so many good ideas and important and life-changing ideas in these books that I wanted some sort of way to remember those ideas and be reminded of them on a more regular basis. So after I share this general process for how to sketchnote your favorite quotes, I'll show some examples of mine that I took from those two books. So let's turn now to the sketchbook as I show you my process for sketchnoting your favorite quotes. The first step is simply to rewrite the words of the quote itself. Sometimes we rush into the image part before we've had a chance to really take in the words. So that's why I'm encouraging you to first rewrite the words. That is an easy and non-stressful way to get started with this process. Step 2 is to brainstorm a primary image. Try to come up with just one image or a really simple scene that's related to the quote that you're trying to capture. And there are 3 things that you can think about to help you come up with that image. First, think about the context of the quote itself. What was the author talking about when that quote came up? Is there a story behind it? Where did he or she go with it after that quote was stated? Look at the backstory surrounding the quote, because what you might find is that there is something in that story, some visual that you can pull out of it and then incorporate into your visual representation of the quote. The second thing that you can think about when you're brainstorming these primary images is why you feel connected to the quote. There's probably some emotional draw that you have to this quote, and think about why that exists for you. Why are you drawn to that quote? Why does it resonate with you personally? Is there some specific event in your life that you're reminded of when you see that quote? And is there an image that you can pull out from that experience? The third thing to think about as you are brainstorming image ideas is, what is your intent with the final image? Why do you want to capture it and put it somewhere? What do you want to get out of that quote in the long run? So this is more thinking toward the future, thinking about the way you want to incorporate this quote into your life. So hopefully, after thinking about the context of the quote itself, why you feel this emotional connection to the quote, and what you hope to get out of that quote in the long run, hopefully you have a list of ideas. And even if it's just a bulleted list of words corresponding to images, that's a good place to start. Don't feel like you have to go right to the image right away. But after you've come up with that list, pick your favorites and try sketching them out. Understand that it doesn't have to be perfect at first. You can go through as many iterations of the actual drawing of this image as you need. Once you have got the image down in a form that you like, then start to play around with how you can arrange the words either outside of that image or within the image itself. As you're playing around with whether or not to put the words to the left or the right or above or below or inside the image, try also emphasizing certain words, either by making those important words bigger or making them bolder or giving them a unique style. That way you have both the image itself and also those important words standing out so that when you glance at that image, you can see the important ideas right there. And again, feel free to iterate here. Try a lot of things out until you get to something that you like. The final step in the process here is simply to polish it up and post it somewhere that you'll regularly see it. At this point, you've found a primary image that you like, you figured out how you're going to arrange the words around or within that image, and you know which of those words, if any, you would like to emphasize. Here's where you put all that down in a final version and then post it somewhere that you'll see it. Now, because of the iterations and the steps involved in that process, it's not something that you're going to want to do for every single idea that you come across in your day. This is for the really big ones that you want to be at the forefront of your mind during the day. So with that in mind, here are some examples of quotes that I sketched out from The War of Art and Turning Pro. As you might guess from the title, the book Turning Pro is all about how to approach your work with a level of professionalism. What I like about Pressfield is his blue-collar approach to creative work, and that's really at the core of these quotes that I'm about to share. First quote, "The professional shows up every day." Now, in some jobs, this quote is a given, but for folks working from home or doing any type of freelance or entrepreneurial work, it's an important one to remember. And initially, I came up with two potential images to go along with this quote. The first depicting a week and the second depicting an entire month. And I chose to go with the week version, one, because it fit pretty well with the number of words in the quote, and also because I like a little bit more of a zoomed in approach, that looking at a week at a given time is a little bit more tangible than thinking about an entire month and just checking off one day each month. So that's why I went for the week. Quote number 2, "The professional stays on the job all day." Again, kind of a given in some settings. In this case, I knew right away what image I wanted to use corresponding to this quote. I really like the idea of physically clocking in at the beginning of the day and clocking out at the end of the day. I kind of even want to go try to pick one of these up someday so that I can actually put a punch card in, hit start on the timer, and not stop working until it's time to stop working. And then I can clock out and go on to the rest of my day knowing that the work has been done. Next quote. "The professional is committed over the long haul." With this one, it took me a couple of iterations to get an image that I liked. I first started just with calendars showing 1 year at a time. And for me, I chose 2012 as the start because that's when I started getting into this whole visual note-taking thing. And the idea of checking off each year and implying that I'm going to keep doing this in the years to come. There's something that I do like about that idea of being committed over the long haul and showing each year's calendar. But for me, the idea of steps corresponding to each year resonates more deeply. To me, those steps are a little bit more active and participatory, I guess. So that's why the final version includes those steps rather than big picture check marks off of a year-long calendar. Another of my favorite quotes, "The professional acts in the face of fear." Now for this one, I chose not to have any image at all. What I wanted to highlight here was the response to fear, responding to fear with action. And in this case, all it takes is a couple of arrows that show that relationship. To me, that's more important than trying to come up with some image for action or some image for fear. What I want to instill is the way that I react to fear and that I react with action, not with inaction. Continuing on, the professional does not identify with his or her instrument. This one can be a little bit tricky because the more you use your instrument, whether that instrument is a pen or a pencil or a keyboard or your voice or an instrument, an actual musical instrument, you can develop this fairly intimate relationship with whatever your instrument is. But the idea that Pressfield is trying to get across here is that you are not your instrument. Your voice may fade or change over time, or your physical instrument might deteriorate or break, or something might change, and that the professional does not over-identify with that particular instrument. Instead, it identifies with their ability to show up and keep working each day. So that's why I chose to represent this quote with simple name tags. One, not identifying with your voice, but instead identifying with the will that you have to continue working. Identity itself can be kind of a tricky concept, but I like using a name tag in that instance, and that's what you see here. I've got a few more for you here. The professional does not wait for inspiration. He acts in anticipation of it. This is another big one for folks doing creative work. It's too easy to wait for inspiration to strike before you go and put pen to paper. When in reality, if you want to make this a consistent, sustainable thing, you got to show up to the page every day and start getting words down, even if the inspiration isn't there initially. And for me, it really does start with putting pen to legal pad and writing words down. Even before I get to drawing in a lot of cases, it's starting to write words down, getting ideas out. So for me, a simple image of some pieces of paper and some handwritten text. That's what it takes to remind me of that idea, not to wait for inspiration, but to get to work in anticipation of it. The final quote about professionalism that I'll share today is one for the modern age. The professional will not be distracted. There are so many places you can go online to waste time these days. And in this image, I'm highlighting just a couple of them, Twitter and Facebook. Now, those two platforms can be used in a professional way and also as a way to maintain and deepen your relationships with others. But I think you need to be careful about how you are using those tools to make sure they're not a simple, easy distraction from the work that you should be doing. The endless and mindless infinite scroll can be a dangerous thing, so watch out for it. So those are just some of the quotes from those two books by Stephen Pressfield that really resonate with me, that I want to carry with me in the work that I do every day. The next step for me is to post those on the wall next to my computer over there to be reminded of them on a daily basis. I want to be able to briefly look at them at the beginning of each day to remind myself how I want to spend my time each day. I hope that you have found this process useful and that you give it a try with some of your own favorite quotes. And if you do that, let me know with a comment below. Let me know how it goes, and if you happen to share your sketches of these quotes, feel free to throw a link in there to wherever you've shared them. And if you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe on YouTube or sign up for my email newsletter to get weekly updates on videos like these and other resources that I'm creating here. Thank you guys for watching. Go get your sketch on, and I will talk to you next week. Till then.